In the other video we went over like just the basic general members of slow play and what they do in each slow play situation. What we're going to talk about here is if you have more advanced tactics, you can do something a little bit different. Like when you slow play, like when you're setting up a slow play, say that you have your team slow playing and they take over gen. Well, instead of having just everybody gen, you can also have somebody get their rotate. What I mean by get their rotate is this person wants to be invisible. If you ever watch soccer, do you know the person who goes in and makes the shots a lot of times, I forget the name of them, but basically like the person who gets in the goal area and shoots the shots, they don't want to be known that they're going to do that. They want to be like invisible. So the idea here is to kind of like find a spot. You know, nobody will usually walk up through in the middle of a scrim. So maybe find a spot like this, not too great, but where they're not going to come through, and just stay here. And let your team watch the radar and watch for your team to push. As soon as your team, you know, they're starting to push out of gen, they're starting to go in the 2. Well, as soon as the enemy team, you know, oh hey guys, it's 2. You know, they know that it's 2. They see that there's 4 of your teammates there. They're going to think all 5 are there. You hear them rotating. Well, then your job is, if you're a scope, sometimes they have scopes to this, is to, you know, you want to peek a little bit before that, and then when they just start coming up, and peek back and run back, or go back and go from the other way. But if you're a rifle, however, a lot of times you can do that. You can sit here, wait for them to walk by and shoot them, but it's a little bit better if you can even wait a little bit longer and have your team like planning, wait for the enemy to already be walked by, and then you might want to get up and run behind them, because then it actually stalls for extra time. And usually if a guy was already mid, say there's a guy here and he's waiting to go in, his teammate comes from 1 and he's coming up like this, the guy from mid is not going to expect it from behind, the guy from 1 is not going to expect it from behind, so you can get multi kills. But if you are peeking right away and there's only one or 2 people coming, yeah, you're usually, A, they'll probably look this way for 1, and for 2, even if you kill them, it's not as good of an advantage as killing them this late. It'll stall everybody because it'll all make them look back, and you can probably get more kills at once. So if you're gonna be a flanking person, you do not want to do anything. Like, you just want to. One thing you don't want to do for sure is you don't want to shoot. You don't want to jump. You don't want to make any noise like this. You don't want to. You don't even want to peek and throw a nade. Like, you don't even. Fire in the hole! You just want to sit here, sit in this corner, do nothing, watch your team push, and if your team's pushing, you want to be able to get up behind that rotate. Now, one thing you can do right here, instead of just being useless and going, you always have to expect the enemy is going to be there for 1, because if they do happen to walk up here, you want to be expecting it. And the other thing is, you can hear them at 1. Say that you're like, man, I hear 2 people at 1, guys, so when you push 2, when your team's pushing 2, or slow playing 2, or whatever they're doing, you know, they know there's people at 1. And when you hear them rotating, you're like, hey, they're rotating right now, I'm going to wait a bit and go behind them. You just want to communicate what you're doing. Oh, I hear somebody mid, they're throwing a grenade, watch out, maybe. You know, if you hear them go up, if you hear them mid going, well then, you tell
Fire in the hole!
But I mean, so you just want to sound play and make the enemy completely oblivious to the fact of where you are. And when your team pushes, whether it's slow playing or fast playing, wait for the enemy to walk by his rifle and then go up behind him. Depending on the enemy though, you don't, sometimes you might want to peek early, but I mean, it just depends. So that's you know, somebody that's gonna get the rotate. I'm gonna go over other things in my other videos, because there's more than just, you have the general people, which is, you know, the video that I went over before, like just the general people who just are part of the slow play, and then I'm gonna do a general people who are part of the push. But then there's also people who get their flank, and then there's also people who push in from the different direction. And I mean, even within that, there's different kinds of flankers, different kind of people who push in from different directions depending on what class they play and what gun they use, and everything's different. I can't be specific, but these are just general things. Like if you use a para, you might want to make sure that you can get close, or you might want to peek right away, depending on how good you are. But if you're using an M4, maybe if you know what the enemy's using, like say you know the enemy is a sniper, and you think that you can pre-fire him, well then maybe when you hear him rotating, you might want to peek out and pre-fire him. I mean, you just have to take into account your guns and everything. I can't do this in these tutorials because I'd have to get into it way too deep and complex. But just remember that while I'm going over these general strats, there's the general strats for pushing and slow play. There's the people who flank. There's the people who push in from different directions. But all of it's different based on what your gun is, who you're playing with, what your clan is, and what you're trying to do specifically. But so these are just general things, just a thing to remember. Well, this video was for the rifles mainly, and also snipers that will get the rotates.